Let's speak now to Laura Blumenfeld, former senior policy advisor to the US State Department. Thank you very much for being with us. And I just wonder, first of all, is there any way, do you think, that this can be brought back from the brink? Well, over the brink.
Right. I mean, the number one goal for the U.S. ever since October 7th, when Hamas launched its ambush, really, on Israeli society, our goal has been to prevent this from exploding into a regional war. And I'm sorry to say that I think it is exploding. The challenge for the United States is, how do we control that explosion? Can we? And I think absolutely, especially since we're 1 month out from a presidential election. This is an opportunity for President Biden to show leadership. First of all, militarily, I think that they agree. There seems to be no daylight between the United States and Israel, that there needs to be some kind of military response. Two ways that the United States can kind of moderate Israel is to argue, use your head, not your heart, right? Iran responded in what's described as an emotional response, which actually may undercut its final goals. And so I think that they're going to try to caution Israel not to fall into that trap. The second thing that the United States is doing militarily is meeting with the G7. Biden just said that he's, coordinating with other Western leaders and is going to give Bibi Netanyahu a call and kind of see whether we can work with our allies, which is kind of signature Biden. The second thing is the point that you made about diplomatically. So there was this, gathering at the UN. I'm less optimistic that they can resolve the Iran issue, but I think there is an opportunity with Lebanon, because there's that UN Security Council resolution 1701 already on the books that could be enforceable. It seems like we have agreement there. Finally, and this is a best case scenario for the United States, is to kind of go the economic route, which is sanctions, specifically on Iran's oil. Those are kind of the black lifeblood of Iran's supreme leader, those oil exports, especially to China. I don't see Israel doing that. I mean, I just spoke to my intelligence sources over there, and these guys are known as the Icemen, and they're melting down. They're ready to hit back militarily.
Right, and on the military side of all this, we heard President Biden say don't go for the nuclear, Iran's nuclear facilities. Do you think Benjamin Netanyahu is listening to Joe Biden right now at all? Because he doesn't seem to have been listening.
Well, I mean, this is maybe you would call it a once in a lifetime for the state of Israel opportunity. If they have, the kind of, they would call it the moral and strategic justification to go for the jugular, as they put it. But, there are a lot of other options. They're masters of the assassination strike. They've shown that they're savvy there. Maybe not necessarily decapitating the supreme leader, but kind of setting the tail of that snake on fire with the people of Iran. Netanyahu, let's take note. He appealed directly over the head of basically the world to the Iranians and said, rise up. And that's what I think may have pressured Iran in the end to launch that strike, because he was going for Iran's red line, which is their own stability and regime survival.
Yeah, well, it's interesting the language he used, talking about reordering the Middle East. Do you think it is possible to reorder the Middle East by military means?
I mean, I think that's the question of our moment, of our time, because that was our goal. For the United States, it was to create regional integration by building on the Abraham Accords, bringing Saudi Arabia into that alliance of moderate Arab states to push back on the axis of resistance, a kind of building of a coalition of coexistence. Netanyahu, after the October 7th attack, this was Sinwar, the Hamas leader, this was his goal, right, to blow up that diplomatic initiative and replace it through military confrontation. So Netanyahu is going the military route, whether that would have been his first choice or diplomatically. I mean, we can argue about that. It depends on, if you're a Netanyahu guy or not. But he's rolling the dice on the military move. What our sort of responsibility is as Americans is to take whatever military success Netanyahu can achieve and translate that into a lasting diplomatic, political peace, and which brings us back to the word that we haven't heard on this interview and not enough these days, the Palestinians.
Yeah, but reordering regions or countries by military means, I mean, the United States tried to reorder Iraq. The United States tried to reorder Afghanistan. I mean, it didn't work. I just wonder what you think can be achieved, what the sort of grand strategy is, and can it be achieved?
Absolutely. I remember I was a reporter at the Washington Post during the Iraq War, and I remember Condoleezza Rice, our Secretary of State at the time's voice echoing, it still echoes in my head, which is democracy in the Middle East is the moral mission of our time. Well, let's see, how did that turn out? I think, though, if we think somewhat more short-sighted and think what are our goals as Americans, it's at the end of the day, it's pushing back on a rising China and an increasingly aggressive Russia. So how do we achieve that? Well, if we want to be the big dog in the Gulf, if we want to partner with countries like Saudi Arabia, we're going to have to add some bite to our bark. You know, we said don't, they did. We're going to have to respond.
Right, and just regarding the more immediate crisis, what do you think the Israelis will do when they do respond? What kind of response do you think it will be?
First of all, you know, we're all talking about settling accounts. So I just want to point out that Israel actually got a good deal out of this retaliation. I mean, it was two for the price of one, right? They eliminated Hamas's leader, Haniya, in Iran, and then took out Hassan Nasrallah, Hezbollah's leader. So although it looks they were under sort of massive assault yesterday, you know, the country was preparing for the Jewish New Year, and folks were out buying apples to dip in honey for a sweet new year and found themselves cowering. So they're going to have to strike back hard. But I think that there are opportunities, military sites short of those hardened nuclear facilities where they can get their message through without triggering World War III.
Okay, Laura Blumenthal, thank you very much indeed.